Will I ever see him again?
Well, you never know. The world's a magical place.
Whoa.
G'day, you cheeky dogs. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Bluey episode Camping and answering some of the biggest questions in it, like how old are Bluey and Jean-Luc by the end of it, as well as the Easter eggs, hidden references, the Star Trek possible parody in it as well, and the real-life Australian locations that we used in this episode.
Jean-Luc! Bonjour!
So if you love the episode Camping, don't forget to hit that like button down below, that subscribe button, and that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release any other Bluey deep dive, Easter egg, theory videos, anything like that. And also let me know down below, how many long dogs out of 5 would you rate this episode? And with that being said, let's just jump straight into this episode.
This episode of Bluey is called Camping.
So let's start off initially with, of course, the one question that everyone always asks about this episode, and that is, how old is Bluey by the end of this episode? Because this is the first time that we ever see a time jump. We get a time jump forward, it's the first one, and I know it was quite shocking for audiences, and everyone really, really liked it.
Bluey, that book's mine!
I know it's yours, Muffin. I'm just borrowing it.
But a lot of people just weren't sure what age Bluey kind of was. A lot of people thought maybe she was 12, maybe she was 13, but we can actually tell what age she was based on the tree as well as the cutscenes as well. So, Costa Kassab, who is the lead art director for Bluey, actually said that this is the pink trumpet tree, and those specific trees only flower once a year. So because of that, we can basically tell then that each time jump that we see, or like second frame, is a 1 year progression. So one scene equals 1 year. We have the first scene where Bluey is obviously 6 years old. Then we have another scene, another, and another, and we just keep on going and adding up
Until the very last 3 scenes, which are all just different times of the same day. So we've got a sunrise, a morning, and a midday. And we can tell this because the tents in the background are in the exact same place, as are all the twigs and leaves and everything that are on the ground. They're all in the same place as well. Therefore, that means that by the end of this, Bluey is officially 16, and so Jean-Luc is then maybe also 16 or possibly 17. It could be either of those ages. He is about the same height as Lucky, and Lucky does look to be the same age as Bluey, but we don't have any confirmation on that. So officially, we're going to say that Bluey is 16 and Jean-Luc is either 16 or 17.
Hello, Bluey.
Something really cool as well is that with the whole like color scheme of being pink, Catriona Drummond actually wanted pink to be the sad color for this episode. And I know a lot of the times we think of more like deeper colors like blue for sad, but I think it was really interesting that they decided to put pink as the sad color for this episode, but then also showed the flowers in the tree turning bright pink as also the point of happiness as well.
Jean-Luc!
Bonjour.
Now, I have already done a very big deep dive into specifically the character Jean-Luc. I'll leave a link for it up here as well as in the pinned comment section down below if you want to go and check it out. But some of like the very highlight Easter eggs of Jean-Luc would include the fact that he is French-Canadian because his breed, which is Labrador, comes from the region Labrador in Quebec, which is the French-speaking region of Canada. And the Canada part is symbolized because of the maple syrup bottle that we see in the episode Camping. And of course, one of the best Easter eggs is if you switch the like dialogue in this to French, you hear Jean-Luc speaking in English, and his name is Johnny.
Oh, Blanche. Hello. Salut. Do you want to play with me? Huh? Do you want us to play together?
To note though, when he speaks in like Chinese or Korean, he still speaks Chinese or Korean, but just with a slightly different dialect, which is kind of weird that they decided to do that. But everywhere else he speaks in French, with like the OG sort of French speaking words that he had. Anyway, fun just side note.
Oh, a house. That's great. We could take the plants to make the walls. Ah oui, ça peut faire les murs.
But let's talk about the Star Trek parody, because fans are like convinced that this episode is an absolute parody of the Star Trek episode Darmok. But it may or may not be true. So Darmok is season 5, episode 2, and it's when Captain Jean-Luc, yes, Jean-Luc, that's where a lot of people get this connection from, meets Darthon, and there is of course a massive language barrier between the two, and they can't communicate.
Darmok and Gillard at Tanagra.
Huh?
Est-ce qu'on joue ensemble?
I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
They also have to take on a wild beast in this, similar to how Jean-Luc and Bluey also take on a wild beast in Camping.
I'll scare him and you get him when he runs away.
Now, one Reddit user did kind of shoot this down by saying that they know someone who works at the Joe Studios, and they said that this is not a parody. Joe Bram has never watched any episodes of Star Trek, and it just happens to be a happy coincidence. There's no confirming of that though either, so I don't know, you can just sort of take it with a grain of salt whether or not you want to believe that this is a parody reference to it, or if it's not. What we do know for certain though is that this story of camping is actually based on a real life story, and that is the creator Joe Brum's own experience with this.
It's based on, my memories of being a kid, but it happened when we went camping, a couple of years ago. They made some friends, and then of course you wake up one day and they're gone.
Jean-Luc? Jean-Luc! Jean-Luc!
Jasmine Moody as well, who was the storyboard artist for this, also went through a very similar experience as well, so it seems like this was mostly based on their lives, specifically Joe Brum's, and not so much on the Star Trek episode. Now, as for the real-life location that camping actually happened at, we did get confirmation again from Costa Casab, the lead art director over on Instagram, that the camping locations were based on Mount Barney as well as Emu Creek. And when you see a side-by-side, you can sort of see the mountains and how they match up, and how the creek looks a bit similar as well. It is also interesting to note that the camping episode has its own toy, which is the toy caravan, which is actually Muffin's caravan, of course.
Bluey, this is my caravan. That cup is mine. Muffin! Give it to me! That biped is mine! Muffin! It's all mine!
But it came with a little map as well, and not all the locations on this are actually where these are in real life, but we do see the location for Bushwee, which is for camping, and it is kind of around that Mount Barney area.
Mom, I need a wee.
Okay, let's do a bushwee.
Now, as for other Easter eggs, hidden details, and animation errors as well, let's get started with our long dog first. So the long dog is underneath Chili's chair when they're doing that flash through scene of them all eating by the fireplace and making toasted marshmallows. This is also the same scene where we see the error in Stripe's design, where he has 2 patches on either side of his eyes. Another really cool little Easter egg is when teen Bluey comes into frame, we see her holding a Penguin classic book, which is funny because Penguin is also the publisher for all of the Bluey books, and they pay homage to this by putting a little bone at the top, but instead of a penguin down the bottom, they have a little dog instead. I do also love that this also shows us that Muffin loves books as a teenager.
Bluey, that book's mine!
I know it's yours, Muffin. I'm just borrowing it.
We do also have a bit of an archaeology reference as well to Bandit's job, of course, with Bluey doing her drawings of the little stick figures. And an interesting thing is that in the camping book, we see a few more of these drawings than what we actually see in the episode.
You get it from behind!
As for the lesson of this episode, I really love how it shows that there's a universal language for play. It doesn't matter if you can't speak the same language, especially as kids, there's just this understanding that you have automatically on how to play together.
Toujours rien.
No fruit tree yet. We need a better plan to catch that wild pig.
But of course, I think the biggest lesson that really touched a lot of people's hearts was the lesson about friendship, and that not all friends remain in your life forever, and that is completely okay. And Chili saying this line was just so perfect.
Sometimes special people come into our lives, stay for a bit, and then they have to go.
But that's sad.
It is. But the bit where they were here was happy, wasn't it?
Yeah. We caught a wild pig together.
Maybe that makes it all worth it.
This was a really simple way for kids to understand, but it also hits a lot harder for adults, I think, as well. Because this happens to us in all stages of life. It's not just when we're kids that we maybe make friends with one kid and then never see them again. It happens all throughout life. Your friends from middle school, from high school, from college, university, different parts of your life where you work. This always happens no matter what. People just do fall out of touch, but sometimes they do come back into your life as well.
Will I ever see him again?
Well, you never know. The world's a magical place.
Whoa.
So I feel that's the reason why this lesson hits so hard with adults as well as kids, because this lesson is something that we have literally lived through multiple times. And it was pretty obvious that a lot of people cried at this ending as well and at these lines because people were constantly talking about it on Reddit posts and Facebook posts. So for me, this episode was an easy 5 out of 5 long dogs. I absolutely loved it. I loved the flash forward scenes. I teared up when I first watched it as well. Again, it was one of those ones where I was like, this is a really incredibly special episode. And yeah, I just loved all the parts of it. So let me know in the comment section down below, how many long dogs would you give this episode out of 5? And did made you cry at the very end as well. So if you love the episode camping, don't forget to hit that like button down below, that subscribe button, and that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release any other Bluey deep dive, Easter egg, theory videos, anything like that. But until those videos come out, I have Picture Cheeky Dogs out, a few other videos that maybe you would like to watch, and I will see you all in another video. Mwah! Bye!